Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for June 7th through 13th. This week I read 3 books, I watched 6 shows, I watched 1 movie, and I listened to 1 book. This is also my wrap-up for Read Your Gaze because my reading week is Sunday through Saturday. I know that this also has today to go before it could technically be over, but I'm not gonna finish one of those books today. I had 5 books on that TBR. I only finished 3 of them. Let's talk about why. The major reason why is the first book I read this week was The Devouring Grey. It took me a really long time to finish this book. I think I finally finished it by Wednesday and I started on Sunday, and it shouldn't have taken this long. However, I found myself not really wanting to read it because I wasn't really invested in the characters. Firstly, there were way too many characters mentioned on the page, and trying to keep them straight was really difficult, especially because we have these 4 different founding families in this book, and it took me a really long time to remember who was part of which family, and the fact that there were 2 different families with a surname starting with S really threw me off. And then there was this other family that was just casually mentioned whose surname started with a C, but I thought that they were actually part of the other surname that started with a C, and yeah, it was annoying because of that. This ended up being a fine book for me, but it wasn't something where I'm very excited to read the sequel. This book is about a small town called 4 Paths. One of the characters is moving into the town for the first time with her mother, who's moving back to take care of this character's aunt, who she's never met before. Once you get to the town, you realize that there are 4 founding families of the town, hence why it's called 4 Paths, and they have a lot of power in this town, and that's mostly because ages ago there was this beast that they stole their power from, and they imprisoned the beast, and now they have magical powers. It was a cool premise. There were some things about the plot that I really enjoyed, but overall it just took me so long to slog through because I had to keep going, which character is this? Why do I care about them? After that I read a book I flew through in a day, and that was Felix Ever After by Kacen Callender. This is about Felix. He's going to an art school program during the summer with his best friend, and he shows up one day and someone has taken personal pictures from his Instagram from before he transitioned and put them up in the school with his dead name. From here he develops a revenge plot and starts catfishing the person that he thinks did it. This is in hopes that that person will give up some little secret that he can use to embarrass them back. I really enjoyed this one because I absolutely fell in love with these characters. I didn't know which twists and turns we were going to go on. There were so many times when other characters said things that were just plain wrong, and then other characters came in and told them why they were wrong, and it was great. I also didn't see the explanation of who put up the gallery in the first place coming, but it made perfect sense once it was shown. This book definitely tackles privilege and how if you have another marginalization on top of another marginalization on top of a marginalization, life is that much harder for you. It also talked about how if you have one privilege, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have all privileges. Trigger warnings for some very transphobic thoughts and things that characters say, but they are addressed, and that I think is the most powerful part of this book. Actually, maybe it's a toss-up between that and Felix exploring his identity a little bit further. He definitely knew he wasn't a girl, he transitioned, but then he came to think, what if I'm not 100% a boy either? And the fact that he was able to question and think about that and search out that information in this book was just wonderful. On to something cute, short, and fluffy. Much like myself, I read the MeetCute Club. This book is about a guy who runs this book club for romance books, and he meets this guy at the local bookstore where he usually buys all the books for the club, and he kind of gives him a little bit of a hard time in a flirty type of way. The guy at the bookstore's like, why are you buying all these old lady books? And he stands up for himself and his choices in reading, and that in itself is wonderful. But then this is also about families and toxic relationships and trying to be close to the people in your life that are actually good for you, and expectations from reading all of these romance books, and it was just cute. Yes, this is a romance, so you know where it's going to go, but the journey to get there was adorable. On to what I watched this week. There were many more episodes of The Simpsons. I didn't particularly pay attention to them. I think we're into the realm of episodes where I've never seen these episodes before because there was a certain point where I didn't have TV anymore, didn't have time to watch TV anymore, that type of thing, so I haven't seen a lot of the episodes. I probably only watched up until like the 13th season or something like that, and then got busy with high school and university and living abroad and all of those types of things. My roommate and I also watched another episode of Luke Cage, and now we're starting to get a little bit more interested in the 2nd season, probably because this episode didn't mostly consist of him beating the crap out of people and people beating the crap out of him. Yes, those action sequences are very cool, but if that's all the show is, you lose interest. My roommate here and I also watched a bunch of episodes of Scandal. We're into the 4th season. It's very exciting because I still know a couple of things that are coming, but then after that we'll get to a point where I haven't seen the episodes before, and that is very exciting to me because so much goes down in this show. And it's also just very fun for her to be like, no, this isn't gonna happen, is it? And me to be like, you'll find out. I also finished my rewatch of the 4th season of RuPaul's Drag Race. Megan was there at the end and it was just about to be announced who was winning, and then it was announced that you had to watch the next episode, and it was bedtime. Like, neither of us wanted to watch the reunion episode to find out who won. I already knew who won, so Megan was like, can you just tell me? And I did, because I wasn't gonna make her sit through another episode. The weird thing with RuPaul with me is when there's a top 3, there's always somebody I really don't want to win, and then 2 people that I'm like, I would be fine if either one of these people won. And in the case of the 4th season, somebody I enjoyed did win. Chad and I also finished Tales from the Loop. It turns out that we stopped watching the show just with 1 episode to go by accident, so that happened. We didn't stop watching it out of not liking it. We stopped watching it because we used to put it on right before going to sleep, and because it is a slow-paced show, we would end up falling asleep. And we kind of felt bad about it, so we kind of put it off, and then realized we needed to finish it. This show is fun because you kind of get to guess what the twist is going to be as far as technology goes, but it doesn't always necessarily make 100% sense. Chad and I also realized that we never continued watching the 9th season of The Walking Dead. We watched the first episode, it was very different, and then we just kind of forgot we were watching it and decided to go back. So we rewatched the first episode and then watched a few more episodes after that. Obviously there's a lot of character turnover in this show. There's also a lot of different locations in this show right now because they're holding strongholds in several different locations and trying to make basically one big community, and that definitely has its struggles. The movie we watched this week was Into the Spider-Verse. I really enjoyed last summer watching this with my nibblings, and it's just an amazing combination of music and different visual styles, and it was just really fun to revisit. If you've never seen it before, I highly suggest watching it. It stars Miles Morales as he gets Spider-Man's powers, and then a bunch of other Spider-Men from different universes come into it, and it's just great. The book I listened to this week was Rick by Alex Gino. This is a companion novel to George and stars a background character from that book. Rick is just going into middle school. His best friend is Jeff, and Jeff has a tendency to get in trouble a lot. However, Jeff has always been really nice to Rick, so he feels like he has to continue being his friend. At this time, Rick is finding it more and more annoying every time Jeff scopes out girls and is like, isn't she so hot? And he's just like, why are you talking about people like this? And it's getting worse because his dad kind of does the same thing, although way less gross. His dad always asks him, are there any girls or boys at school that you're interested in? And Rick is coming to understand that no, not really. This is an Ace Arrow coming of age story. He doesn't settle directly on a label at this point, but he's got time to figure that out. This book is also wonderful because he ends up spending a lot of time with his grandfather, who he's never spent a lot of one-on-one time with before, and they realize that they have a mutual passion for this show, and we learn something interesting about his grandfather on the way, and it's just really cute. It's really lovely. This middle school also ends up having a Rainbow Spectrum Club, which is where Rick learns about Ace and Arrow identities to begin with, and it's just so wonderful. There's so much terminology discussed in this book, and I find that wonderful for middle grade readers. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. Some of you have asked if there's a way to support me, so I recently set up a Ko-fi account. The link for that is down below, as well as the link to my Amazon wishlist. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!